The leaker was right all along. You can bring 2 crewmates to assist you. We have plans on expanding the building so an overview system can be used to make ships. These and more were said back before the trailer was released. Hey guys, Dantix here, back with some more Starfield. I generally try to take leaks with a split grain of salt, no matter how much I enjoy entertaining them. However, when it comes to Starfield, there have been a few, from leaked images to those claiming that they played a demo or even worked on the game. In this case, a leaker has claimed many things about the game far before any gameplay or information was released, and so far he's been right on a number of these claims and nothing he's said has been wrong. In fact, a lot of what he wrote that has been confirmed seems too eerily accurate to be mere guesses, hence why I needed to make this video. Recently, a Redditor by the name of Even Championship 311 has compiled all the points this leaker has made, so we can go through these, discuss what else might be coming and the validity of these claims. Do note that this is purely for entertainment. You too should take these leaks with a grain of salt, though a large part of me wants some to be true. So in this video, I'll start with the things that are confirmed to be true, and then I'll continue on to those that are not and discuss their potential. So if there's something here that you want to discuss or are excited for if true, let me know below. Okay, let's begin. First, the confirmed true statements. The ships are very akin to what we have today, but more updated. We see that in the reveal and the latest gameplay trailer. The game will have a NASA punk theme. Machine Games is making the Indiana Jones game, but Todd is directing it. This one is so accurate, it actually made me think the leaker is legit. He predicted this well before the announcement, and this isn't something that you can guess. This might be a case of a leaker sprinkling in some truth that he's stumbled upon, mixed into his lies, but this point, I admit, is getting me convinced. Dialogue options are back with a voiceless protagonist. Bethesda learned from their mistakes from Fallout 4. This is one of those topics that's divisive. I run through more in my last video, but it's confirmed to be true. The settlement system comes back in force from both on-planet to a new version on spaceships. During the trailer we saw both a settlement system on planets as well as one on your ship, both of which you can recruit NPCs to help run. Then when asked if Starfield was basically No Man's Sky with RPG elements, he replied, yeah, you could say that, haha, though we have a bit more guidance when it comes to stories on planets. This was specifically a point Todd wanted to hammer home. Not that Starfield isn't a No Man's Sky, but there are more stories to be told on the planets. If this leaker was actually Todd, I wouldn't be surprised. Then the leaker says that in the teaser trailer 2018, if you look really close to the bottom right, there's a person walking on the outer ring of the satellite. The leaker goes on to say that this is explained by a theoretical method of warping tech. This could indicate that warping tech helps you get around and explains how ships will be traveling vast distances. We've seen grav drives mentioned multiple times in multiple areas, and you can check out my videos discussing that for more information. The story will take place in a very near future setting. For story, there's an overarching plot to drive the player to go planet to planet to explore, but he said he didn't want to reveal it. Says that he's only comfortable talking about his department in programming, does not feel comfortable talking about someone else's work out of respect. It's strange though that he has respect for this department, but talks about other areas of the game that would have been touched by other departments other than his. Perhaps he has a friend there, or he actually doesn't know. But there is a drive to make the player travel to explore, and Todd has mentioned it's for the new and old world artifacts, or hinted that it might be for that. He says he doesn't know what will be shown at E3 2021. He works at programming, but if he had to guess, it would be spaceships, customizations, and crews, planets, and the new settlement system. Another eerily accurate statement, even though it was a guess by him and a year early. All of these things were covered in the recent trailer. The planets are massive compared to Skyrim/Fallout. They are much bigger. They are also spherical. There's also a trick used to conserve game memory. I'd be more interested to see exactly what this trick is, but we can be sure that it's involving the procedural generation tools discussed at length in my video here. Return to more Oblivion level RPG elements. They lean more into freedom like gun customization, ship customization, plus crew settings to roleplay into what type of player you are, but as for pure skills, they are more akin to Skyrim's Do to Learn. This has also been confirmed, as we could clearly see that you first unlock a skill, then use said skill to unlock the next stages. A system that I'm excited for and very much want to see in action. You can bring up to 2 crewmates to assist you, and we can see that confirmed here in the trailer. There'll be both spaceship and foot combat. You can land on all planets and moons that have physical land. There are some mega cities and mega satellites. Exploration is a huge part of the game. There will be a core central universe with a long story behind it and many different planets to visit based off of it. It's pretty open-ended where you can go from system to system. The leaker further emphasizes later that there are extra planets out on the further reaches solely there for the player to mess around with and use the settlement systems. Still handcrafted, just kind of more freedom to mess around with areas away from the main story. Starfield is going to be the biggest game ever created by us. Plans on expanding the building so an overview system can be used to make ships. We wanted to make it more modder friendly. And finally, ladders have been added to the game, which is a big in terms of complex animation work. All of these points have been confirmed in one way or another. So that was the admin work. Gotta tick the boxes and dot the I so you know this leaker has been pretty spot on so far. Next are the leaks that haven't either been fully confirmed or haven't been shown at all. Once again, let me know if you think these points have merit or if you'd like to see them in game. First, does not have unrealistic stuff like Star Trek giant space amoebas and Greek gods. However, it does have that early Star Trek vibe of exploration. Tyler said the game is grounded in realism, so it does make sense that there won't be Greek gods and giant space amoebas. We have seen alien creatures though, so it's hard to say that a giant crab alien is much different to a giant space amoeba in terms of fantasy. I guess they're leaning into what would have been believable to see in the future in space in our minds. Different planets have different gravity and oxygen levels. Not much needs to be said about this, it seems confirmed but we haven't seen it in action yet. Starfield is way more hard sci-fi but less of the whole bleh feel of the ships from Elite Dangerous. This one I disagree with his opinion, not the validity of his statement. His opinion was that Elite Dangerous ships looked less human and more alien. I don't find the ships of Elite Dangerous bleh, and they don't at all look like something humans can't make hundreds of years in the future. If anything, the ships inspired by NASA that we're getting in Starfield seem a little too close to how we would build them now in 2022. In 300 years, with our current technological explosions, who knows what we could have. Compare how phones looked 30 years ago to now, for example, and then imagine what they could look like in 300 years. Then when talking about settlement management and delegation, someone in the office pointed out the game Kingmaker to us and how micromanagement can take up a lot of time and energy. We all agreed that it needed to have an element to let the player control it from a range for micro stuff without needing their intervention to let the player play the game. First off, Tom mentions that you can delegate tasks to others and that your crew can help with this. We also see one of your crew working on what seems to be a crafting bench of some sort, so we can assume this statement is accurate. The question is, what will your crew be doing? Crafting for you while you're away, gathering resources for you, managing your farms, going on missions dedicated to just crew? We still don't know. Starfield has around the same gameplay loop as Fallout 4 and 76, but way more in-depth in two things, exploration and building a settlement bigger, and we improved these quite a bit. There are blank planets where players can make colonies during or after the main story. This has pretty much been confirmed as well, but we haven't seen much on settlement building or exploration, nor have we seen the gameplay loop similar to the Fallouts. I would go as far to say there really wasn't a solid loop in those games. When you hit a cloud layer of a planet, you get a pseudo loading screen, then you enter the planet's atmosphere. It's been confirmed that there is no seamless transition from space to ground like in No Man's Sky, so a traditional loading screen makes sense. I would have preferred a cutscene showing the landing rather than a load screen, but we have to wait to see what we're actually getting as the game is still in development. Using the tech we have, we're knocking out planets, which is not difficult to do, though we need more artists because there are a lot of negative space on some planets. Use procedural generation to help us generate the planets themselves, then use artists to touch up. We picked areas and find it into a playable zone. There are a lot of dead areas if you go into unpopulated zones of the map. Messy, non-artist touch areas as well. This is what a lot of people fear, that there will be 1,000 planets and most of them will be barely touched by artists. There is no doubt that there is a monumental amount of work to be done, but at least if this leaker is real, we know that there are artists working on touching things up and making these planets believable, and like Todd said, there will be a Daggerfall-like system in place for events which are run through here. You can command pretty large ships, and then you can bring crews down to a planet to assist with settlements and questing. One thing we haven't seen yet is the true upper limits of the size of ships. Right now we see frigate-sized vessels and we can sort of see a mass limit when building, but we don't know if this can be improved and how large we can make ships. Obviously having the freedom to make massive ships would be better than limitations, as we all want to experiment with different playstyles. No doubt this would come in mods regardless. A space trader or space miner would be possible with a large freighter style starship, a small one of those shown off in the footage already. No doubt if we have true creative freedom, which I doubt, someone will make a Death Star and a Star Destroyer. Without a doubt someone will make the Normandy from Mass Effect as well, but you could get a more accurate scale with that one. Speaking of Mass Effect, I feel the crew deployment system will function similar to how it does in Mass Effect, where before you land, you pick your crew to bring with you, then the planet loads and you land. Starfield is very different than Elder Scrolls and Fallout. The leaker compares it to if Mass Effect and Doom had a baby with Morrowind as the adoptive father. This one I have questions about. Why Doom? I understand Mass Effect when it comes to space exploration and scanning, but Doom? Does he mean in terms of gunplay? Because so far the trailers we see are more RPG driven shooting systems rather than an action based one. Later on he mentions the Doom UI and its software, so it might simply just be that. I do understand the Morrowind reference in terms of having more choices in the RPG system, dialogue and the character creator. You can customize your ships through a base model, you can build outwards and inwards from the interior. Same tech is used for the settlement system. We only saw ships being edited and didn't see them being built from the ground up, but we did see the model names on the ships at the bottom left, so it's possible that this is true, though it's not clear exactly how the settlement system works yet. The controls for the spaceship are more simple than Elite Dangerous, more akin to how the Outer Wilds functions, but not as simple as that. We can't confirm this based on what we saw, but we did see an FTL-like power management systems, guns, missiles and cannons, a basic control system and in turn, basic dogfighting. I doubt it will be a complete Starship sim and it really doesn't need to be. For planet travel you can fly around in the atmosphere, there are also little rovers. It seems possible that you'll be able to fly around in the atmosphere of a planet, considering planets are, well, planet-sized in Starfield. I assume you'd need ships to cover any sort of meaningful ground. We haven't seen anything on rovers, but that would be a good addition. Begs the question though, why use the rover when you can use the Starship? Maybe just the time it takes to get in and out, or perhaps the rover can go places the Starship can't, like caves or underwater. This raises the question of customization as well. Since we can fully build our settlements and starships, can we customize our rovers too? Can we put weapon systems on, for example? There is a settlement takeover system now. In addition, AI can build their own settlements as well. Since Todd wants to give us the power to play how we want, and it's heavily implied we can be actual pirates the whole game, it would make sense to be able to raid and take over settlements instead of being forced to just build them yourself. Having NPCs making their own would add to this immersion, though I wonder if you can give tasks to NPCs to build in your absence, and how big of a scale can this AI build for you. The developers really worked on the UI after how much people loved it in Doom Eternal, where you can customize it. For example, you can remove quest markers and many other things. They have goals to improve UI customization. This might be what he meant before by saying it's a cross between Mass Effect and Doom, simply the UI. A customized UI is great considering how terrible the UI is typically in Bethesda games. The modding community have almost always made UI mods first. Hopefully Bethesda has taken note of what works, and if they have id Software on the case, they understand. As of right now, we don't see anything particularly stand out in the UI, though I hope customization is a real thing, as I'd like to do a UI-less run. Pretty hard sci-fi, nothing outlandish like Borderlands or the Outer Wilds, but more down to earth like Alien? No, that's not right. I want to say Interstellar, but I still think that's a bit off. I unironically think more towards Cabin in the Woods, which is not sci-fi, but more of a everything takes a it has a reason to be here and just works approach. So like Todd mentions, it's sci-fi based in realism, NASA punk. So if there are alien creatures, there's a reason why they're there. If there's alien tech, they try to explain it. This is something I can get behind and that I understand, though I really hope this doesn't mean truly creative ideas would be stifled. Todd mentions that they always want to consider every idea, but it would be hard with this limitation. The game requires more intelligence. There are still quest markers, but after the Outer Wilds, the Office like more exploration-based quests. Now, this one I hope is true. I don't want to blindly follow markers and autopilot the game. I want to explore and be rewarded for it. A space exploration game should have exploration in the quests. He keeps going back to the Outer Wilds, and after the game's success, I don't blame him, but I hope it doesn't draw too much inspiration from it. I want a Bethesda game after all. Crew can help man weapons, perform repairs on the ship, fly, etc. I hope this is true as it will add to the role-playing aspect. Having crewmates you can yell, "Don't get cocky!" to. Fly is an interesting one though. Can you get an NPC to fly for you while you man the guns? If so, will there be turret-like guns you can attach to ships like the Millennium Falcon? It raises a lot of questions and would improve the options you have in space combat, as long as the AI isn't garbage and flies you into asteroids, or whose idea of knowing a few tricks is listing lazily to one side. Gay romance is included, following the same design as Fallout 4 and Skyrim, where you can screw anything that moves and people can't turn you down. I have zero problems with this. I think in a role-playing game you should have as much freedom as possible. No one can turn you down, so what? It's a game. You're meant to be able to play the most desirable person in the universe if you want. You're meant to be able to play the biggest loser in the universe too. Options are good, and limiting NPCs to only particular characters, like some games do, Cyberpunk, is backwards in an RPG and doesn't make sense. If you want a female NPC to only be lesbian, for example, if you have a male character, don't engage in the dialogue or put the Amulet of Mara on, just roleplay they're lesbian and aren't interested. Easy. Insisting there should be less options because not every person in the universe is the same orientation just removes options for others and offers no real gameplay reason other than to make your own statement. The first-person camera is more akin to Fallout 4, but with a bit of a handling upgrade from id and the upgraded animation work done by sister studios. If true, I'm excited that id Software helped with the first-person camera because Doom, like we discussed, was a really tight action shooter and I loved it. Responsive and impactful controls and decent UI. Let's hope Bethesda lets the studio do their thing. Bethesda has some of the best animators in the industry. Some of their personal projects are incredible. They are limited by the creation engine though. I've heard about the limitations of the creation engine, but also how it lets them make games that feel very Bethesda, with NPC automation and the like. The truth is, unless we directly work on the engine ourselves, we can't know how good or bad it is. If it produces a good quality game, that's all we can really ask for. With id Studios, hopefully gun designs and animations will be improved from Fallout 4. I completely agree, even if I love the gun designs and animations, which I didn't, any improvement is welcome. Todd Howard was inspired by Chris Roberts' The Death of a Spaceman, which has consequences when a player dies, such as losing limbs and a possibility of permadeath. A team was sent to work on complex character designs for this. Now, this is interesting. Are we talking permanent quirks similar to mutations in Fallout 76, wherein you could have a negative and sometimes a positive applied to your character? Might be a perk like one-armed, where you lose the ability to wield a two-handed weapon but get a 10% discount at stores and find more loot when pickpocketing. No doubt a hardcore mode would have the inclusion of permadeath if Todd likes the idea, but the possibility of consequences for death is intriguing to me. Would that mean that death doesn't just knock you back to your last save file, which wouldn't be like Skyrim or Fallout 4 at all? I hope this comes to fruition because the memes, streams and videos will be hilarious. Talk going around about adding an augmentation system, less cyberpunk and more biotech. We want it to have visual effects on the player. During the trailer we see mention of augmentation, so this is likely confirmed. Usually these are just passive changes to your character like the augments in Cyberpunk, so if augmentations are visual as well as passive, I'll be stoked. The customization possibilities will drastically improve. Perhaps if they implement a loss of limbs, we could see robotic replacement parts, a way to mitigate the negatives and add a positive. Lots of possibilities are swirling around in my head. We want players to have their own start, similar to alternate start mod based on race and class. Not sure if the leaker means start will be different physically or just passively with different stats. We can see in the gameplay trailer that your background choice changes your starting skills and how people in the world talk to you, and then you can add different perks like having real alive parents. I wonder if they're shooting for different location starts like with Cyberpunk's backgrounds. However, the leak's first notable mistake, he mentions race. It's all but confirmed we'll only be able to pick human. This leak was back in 2018, so maybe that was an idea thrown in the trash, something they only just tightened up and renamed backgrounds, or maybe it was just his wording when referring to the mod. There are a bit more intelligent alien races than there are cities. We haven't seen any indication that there are any intelligent races besides humans right now. It might be something they're saving until the end, but we know there will be around 5 or more major cities in the game, so having that in intelligent races seems unlikely when they're trying to base the game in realism, and we know there isn't going to be like a council of alien species like there is in Mass Effect. So that is all the leaker has mentioned so far. What do you think? Any standouts? Let me know below. If you like my Starfield content, let me know by doing the typical YouTube stuff. For everything RPG, you're already in the right place. Ciao friends.